Hello everybody. Today I'm going to walk you through the different kind of solar systems. So there's some confusion about off-grid, hybrid, and an on-grid system. And I'm going to walk you through. So by the end of it, you'll have a good idea of what each of the systems are. So think about it this way. First of all, we have a solar panel, right? Which is more like a battery cell. And it gives out a DC voltage, just like a battery cell, right? And generally, you could get a system with 37 volts or 12 volts, or somewhere in between as well. So let's say you have a solar panel, you put it in the sun, and it produces 12 volts. Now, you just connect this 12 volts to your home, and you live in a cottage in the woods or in a village, and you can use this energy to charge your cell phone or to do other works at home as well. And this is how a lot of systems are in the villages. Now, you can get a 12-volt DC system and you can actually connect it with a battery. So when the light is shining, sunlight, you're gonna be able to charge your battery as well as utilize it at home. And in the evening, you are going to use it from the battery alone. So this is how about 80 to 90% of the systems are set up in villages around the world, be it Pakistan, India, Ghana, or anywhere else like that. And this little system costs very little. Now, what if you say, hey, this is great, I love it, but I want to be able to even watch a TV, right? You're not going to be able to run it on a DC voltage, and you say, I want AC battery in there, right? And AC energy. So what the next step would be that you would go in and buy what we call an inverter. Okay. So what an inverter does is it inputs DC voltage and converts it into an AC output as well. Okay. So you're getting DC here and you're getting 212, 220 or 2120 or however the system might be into your home. And you can actually connect it to your TV or different appliances. So I'm going to make the house a little bigger and open things up a little bit here. Right. Okay. So I have a bigger home now with a TV, and now I want a bigger solar system. The second step is that you say, oh, by the way, I have these issues with my battery, so I want my inverter to actually charge my battery. So make sure that I get the maximum life out of the battery. I can monitor how low it drains and all that other stuff. So now all of a sudden you would actually connect the battery to the inverter, right, through what we call a charge controller battery as well. So this is a typical off-grid system, right? So you're not connected to the grid anywhere. You have a battery that supports you during the nighttime or during rainy days or anything like that. And during the daytime, the solar panels producing and it's also charging the battery. And most people, when they think about solar, they think about this system. And they're always trying to work through this system and say, this is what I'm looking at for solar. But, now let's expand this a little bit here and say that I have maybe 10 modules in here and my voltage goes to 120 on the DC side, and now it can handle a much larger load as well, and you have less losses as well. Now what happens is with time there is electricity that gets connected to this area. So let's say there is a pole right next to you and you're getting connected to your electricity. Now first you were running your TV, now you're also running your refrigerator, right? Because that's going to consume more than a battery system can provide for you, and you also are running your AC with it as well. Okay, now this is your load is actually not divided in two parts, right? One is coming from green, nice energy from your solar system, and the other one is coming from your utility, right? Now, what if you say that, hey, this is great, I love it, but at night time, my batteries are not able to support me any further, and therefore, I'm discharging them all the way. I'm losing my batteries every often. But what if I can actually use the energy from the grid to charge my batteries at night and also to run the TV? So this kind of becomes like a backup, right? So what you would do is add some functionality into your inverter, right? So currently this is a typical off-grid system with split load. Half of your load or some of your load is on solar, the other one is actually lost, right? It's basically on your grid. Now, if I connect the grid to my inverter, all of a sudden, now I have the capability to charge the battery and also to connect it to a TV at nighttime, right? So this is basically, it's helped me out quite a lot, but I have a little problem, right? And my problem is that I can now um, see TV all the time, but if I am producing more than I'm consuming, then what's happening to that energy, right? So let's say if I am producing 5 kilowatts here, right, and I'm just consuming 1 kilowatt, what's happening with the rest? Is it getting wasted? So what if we put in a second uh, system in there? What it does is it will export out all the extra energy back into the grid, right? So this way now you have a system that will export your extra energy out as well. This is a perfect hybrid system, right? So you have some of your loads on your um, solar system, you have some of your load on the grid, and basically whenever, so your electricity meter is right here, right? So whenever you're actually producing more than what you're consuming on what you call a critical load, right? You would actually be exporting out, and before it gets exported to the grid, it will see if it needs to be consumed inside the home. If it's not, if it's still extra, then it would go back and do net metering as well. So let's say this is my meter, right? So over here, this is an ideal representation of a hybrid system. Now you have two panels here, right? One is connected directly from the grid. The other one is connected through the inverter. Most people, what they do is take and specify a smaller load, which is more like a critical load. It could be, your fridges or stuff like that, and they connect it to the inverter. And this will always be powered as long as you have battery. So even if your grid goes out, your battery kicks in, it provides all the energy, and until the batteries run out. Now there are different schemes you can define. You can say that I want to use my energy from my battery before I start using the energy from the grid, or you can define that your grid is going to provide before you even start charging your battery. So here is what we will call a classical hybrid inverter. Okay. Okay. Now, what if somebody says, that's great, but I don't see a lot of power outages and I don't like paying for these batteries and it's very expensive. So what can I do? I want to make it simple, right? So in this case, they will go ahead and say, I want all my load to get connected here, right? So you will take the battery out, okay? And now all of your load, but your load is still split, right? So what if you say, wait a second, right? What if I do this? I disconnect my critical load. Now everything's on the same load. And I just connect everything to here, right? So you've already established that your electricity is not going to go out. So everything, even your TV, your refrigerator, everything works on your solar. Everything works on your grid. Okay, so this is now a typical on-grid system. Okay, all right. Now, this is great, right? You're always exporting from your inverter into the grid. So this wire is actually exactly the same wire that comes from your meter from your grid into your home. So all you're doing is basically just cutting these, not cutting them, but actually scraping them off and on there connecting the wire. So, even if you take a big, heavy air conditioner and you throw it on there and it has a lot of draw current, it is still going to draw it directly from the grid. So you're never going to find out that your systems behave anything other than they would do while they're on the grid. Okay, so this kind of explains a typical on-grid system. Now, what happens is that during the daytime, if you're only consuming, let's say, 3 kilowatt, right, and you are producing, let's say, 5 kilowatts again, right? So you're going to be exporting 2 kilowatts, right? And what net metering means is that at night time, you can consume those 2 kilowatt from there, okay, without paying anything extra to the grid. So it's a great system. I mean, you don't have the cost of the battery. You are net metering. So you size up your system in such a way that during the daytime you produce enough that it will cover your usage at nighttime, and you use the grid as a battery for your system. So this kind of summarizes all three systems. So we've looked at off-grid, okay, we've looked at hybrid, and we have looked at on-grid system. Now, here is a problem, right, with on-grid. Now, what if there is a guy in your neighborhood that wants to work on this pole, right? So what he does is he shuts off the electricity supply on the back end, and he gets up on here and he starts working on the pole. Now, all of a sudden, your system kicks in and starts producing energy. Now, what's going to happen is he's going to get this massive electricity shock, and he's probably going to, not going to be happy with that. Um, you know, Probably fall down as well. So here is a problem that a lot of developed nations were worried about. So they said that the moment the electricity goes off from the grid, right, and you disconnect it, the the inverter is going to shut down. Okay. Now, this worked really well in developed nations where you don't have a lot of energy outages, but in countries like India, Pakistan, Nigeria, wherever you may be, there is actually hour to 2 hours of downtime or rolling blackouts. So the system thinks, oh my God, somebody's working on those wires, so I gotta shut myself off. So the system shuts down. So every on-grid system is going to shut down when you don't have grid electricity. So with these um, little video, I have explained all the systems and how they work. If you have any questions, you can always ask me. Thank you very much. My name is Junaid, and um, have a good time.